Hey there, good evening. Nice to see you. It's time for the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors, journalists, people writing stuff about the Bronx so that you can get some insight, know what's really going on. Second segment, we're going to go down and do the Bronx Art Space, which is one of the wonderful new places for artists in the Bronx. But right now, let's start out with a reporter at amNY. He says he covers transit, but there's nothing that he wouldn't be interested in. It is Ben Brachfield. Nice to see you, Ben.
Thanks, Gary, for having me. I really appreciate it.
What I really want to get into, and what I think is fascinating, is there was some movement on the Cross Bronx Expressway, but because it wasn't finalized and they didn't cut the ribbon and say, now we're doing this, it's still kind of in the works. It hasn't gotten a lot of coverage. And you wrote a nice piece on it. And I want to just talk about it. The piece is entitled City Advancing Proposals to Cap Parts of the Cross Bronx Expressway, Add Green Space Along the Way. Tell us a little bit about the draft study that the city and state departments of transportation released, and then we can kind of figure out what they may be thinking about and what they may be doing.
Sure. So the city and the state, they won a $2 million grant from the Biden infrastructure bill. It's a program called Reconnecting Communities, and it's basically a program that is designed to bridge neighborhoods that were severed under by the urban highways that were built throughout much of the 20th century, all throughout the city, including in New York. The Cross Bronx is one of the most infamous of those. And I'm sure much of your audience has read The Power Broker, and there's the Cross Bronx was famously designed by the quote unquote master builder Robert Moses, and at the end of the day, it displaced. It was driven through existing neighborhoods, and it displaced tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people.
Hundreds of thousands for generations, and destroyed Bronx lungs for generations.
That's true.
What are they trying? The whole idea of capping it. I mean, what are we making it a tunnel, or we're making it a tunnel in places? Like what do they really think about? Because the idea, I mean, I forget how long it is, 6 miles or whatever it is. The idea of putting the whole thing underneath is a little bit specious. So I don't know what the word, maybe not realistic. So what physically are they thinking about? And then we'll talk about all the little nuances of other things that they do.
Yeah. So they're not talking about doing the whole thing. They say that that certain portions of the Cross Bronx are not feasible for that. The main portions of the Cross Bronx that would be feasible to put a cap over are the portions of it that are below ground in like a trench. And that's like a little less than half of the stretch of the highway from west to east in the Bronx. And so what they're saying is that they could put, some
kind of cover over it?
Like a cover over it, like a cap. And it would be, it could be covered in parkland. It could feasibly be covered by like apartments or roads and stuff. And so basically what they want to do is they want, people to be able to cross the Cross Bronx, I guess.
So it doesn't break up our communities like it did.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And and that could be by building a new park or building apartments or new connections to get to the subway. There's
really from one side to the other. Let's say from, for example, Westchester Avenue to be able to get over to the other side. And that would really, frankly, be pretty exciting. What I think is interesting, and I'm sure you've covered the Metro North plan in the Bronx as well. The whole idea there, and we did on my other show, Bronx Talk, interview the people from Department of City Planning. They claim in writing and statement that this is a community-driven methodology, and they reached an agreement on the Metro North plan with the development that they're going to get along with it. And I think they're applying the same methodology here, to rather than just say, okay, here, like Robert Moses did, here's our plan.
Mhm.
Let's get communities involved. But you believe that this is kind of a fair process, a process that's going to include the Bronxites that have something to say about it?
I mean, I think let's put it one way. New York's planning process is very, very different today than it was under Robert Moses. Robert Moses just basically did whatever he wanted and had the power to do whatever he wanted. Today, and some people say that there was a bit of an overcorrection because now we're in a situation where oftentimes proposals that get uh, put forward by city planners, they end up not going anywhere for a very long time because
Because it takes forever. Yeah, yeah.
because it takes forever to go through all the community workshops and outreach processes. They've done. I couldn't tell you the exact number, but they've done a lot of workshops on this project.
Yes.
They've done a lot of outreach. I mean, whether they've done enough, that's not for me to say. That's for the members of the community.
But I think your point is a very good one, because those of us in the Bronx, certainly I've covered the Bronx for many years, but we are always concerned that we get top-down plans and we don't get input on it. But when I was reading in your article and also in the draft that they had done, the list of things resonates very well with me, who covers a lot of these things. It's the same conversation we had over there with the Metro North plan. Improve public transit, freight management, which on that highway you certainly want to do, expand open space and address health disparities, improve intersection and corridor safety, address climate hazards, all those kinds of things. It would be nice to be able to do those things. And I don't know, are we going to wait for forever? And it just seems such a daunting project, because this thing is such a physical beast that rides through the whole borough.
Exactly. So the caps, there isn't a really proposed date for implementation of the caps, because that is a very, very complex and large scale engineering project. They say, and it would be very, very expensive. Each cap, and they say they have 13 locations where they could be doing potential caps, and each one of those could cost $2 billion. So think about that. That's $26 billion to cap the Cross Bronx Expressway.
Wow.
And and they don't have the money for that. They would need the money from the feds. They'd need it from the state, and whether that's happening at any time soon, that's open to interpretation. But there's also other projects that are included in this draft study for that they say could be done in the quote short or medium term. You were mentioning things like freight management. They want to replace some trips that are done by trucks with marine delivery or by cargo bike. They have a proposal to. There's a program existing in the city to incentivize cleaning up truck emissions, and also they want to potentially add a bus lane on Tremont Avenue.
I was going to ask about that. So they would add a bus lane, let's say on Tremont Avenue, to take to get maybe some of the cars off, or people who want to actually traverse the Cross Bronx. But a lot of these bus lanes, and listen, I'm all for mass transit and everything else, but a lot of times these bus lanes, they squeeze the amount of cars, and so all of a sudden you got more traffic, and you got a bus lane which is valuable and valued, but you have, and when you think about more traffic on the Cross Bronx, or what I mean, you've lost a lane of traffic. So I'm wondering how they're going to do that, I guess.
Well, it's interesting because when the bus lanes go in, and there's different ways that bus lanes could be constructed, but when bus lanes are implemented, usually the bus speeds go up and ridership also goes up. So, the idea is that, and it doesn't always work in practice, but the idea is that, more people are taking the bus because it's more reliable. Anyone who's ridden a New York City bus knows that it is not always the most reliable form of transportation, but when they're, when they can actually, get to where they need to go without traffic, they could be a lot more reliable and they get more ridership. And that means, in the context of the Bronx, that means fewer people on either Tremont Avenue or the Cross Bronx Expressway.
I mentioned way up top about the effect on young people's lungs, et cetera, et cetera. If you cap it, is there a way of getting the fumes that, of course, come from the traffic and somehow making it so that it doesn't affect the air, or piping it somewhere else, or treating it so that it's not as deadly? I mean, because one thing, you cap it and then all that stuff, it goes somewhere and it's going to get out into the air anyway. Or am I just being naive about how this all works?
So
knowledge.
Yeah. So like on the, if in the study, there's stuff about ventilating the parks and the caps. So basically, anytime you want to put a cap, or I guess a tunnel over a highway, you need to ventilate it, and so it would go through these shafts. And at the end of the day, that is still emissions, but I guess they would be, these would be, enormous. Treated. It would be enormous buildings. Yeah.
You don't want it to go right up into the parks that are right above the highway. That would be self-defeating. Listen, we got about a minute left. What do you see as like the next steps now that the draft study is here? Is it more outreach to the community, get a lot of input on that? And it sounds like if they're talking about dealing with the large vehicles, they're going to have to work with the entire financial infrastructure of delivering goods, I would guess.
Yeah, so they just put out the draft report, and the final report is supposed to come out this winter. They just did another round of workshops, and there was one on last week. There was one just yesterday, in fact. And some of the short and medium term things that they were talking about, like the marine transport or the potential bus lane on Tremont Avenue, those could be implemented, in theory tomorrow. But
Ben, we do got to run. But let's see if that comes out in the winter. Let's make an appointment right now to know that you'll come back, and we'll continue this dialogue about the Cross Bronx at that time.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Great. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate
it. Ben Brachfield, a reporter at amNY, specializes in transit. And we will take a short break. And when we come back, as I said, we're going to do the Bronx Art Space. Don't go away.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I am thrilled. I was just having a conversation with one of our guests about how important music and art is in the borough of the Bronx. It's our culture. It gives us strength. It gives us, to me, everything. It opens our kids' minds up. And so it is thrilling for me to welcome the director of Bronx Art Space. It is Sabine Schumacher. Nice to see you, Sabine.
Thank you for having me, Gary.
And she brought one of all of our favorite artists. It is Lady K Fever. Nice to see you, Lady K. Let's just introduce you as a New York-based street artist, activist, educator, specializing in communities. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you for having us.
Good. Thank you for joining us. Let's just talk about Bronx Art Space. Sabine, get a little background. Tell us about where it's at. How did it get started? And where what are you working on these days?
Sure. Bronx Art Space was founded more than 15 years ago by Linda Cunningham and Mitsu Hadishi, both artists who moved to Mott Haven and wanted to kind of create an artist community around them, and were in this old storage building on East 140th Street in a raw space, and set up shows, kind of like pop-ups. And
about how long ago was that, if you don't
more
mind?
than 15 years.
Okay.
They found the building in 2000, and I think it started around 2007 that they occupied one of the raw spaces that didn't have renovation yet, and they used that space to set up exhibitions, and also, like I said, creating an artist community, and doing this over a couple of years. There's always the good friend that says, you know what, you have to do this in a more professional way. And why don't you make it into a nonprofit? And Linda and Mitsu at this time said, oh my God, we have enough to do. But because they were, Linda especially, developing that building. And so, but they did it. And Linda found a young woman, Steffi Lindquist, who became the first director of Bronx Art Space, who also, with her professionalism, put Bronx Art Space on the map.
And when did you? I want to move it ahead. When did you get to the space that you currently occupy on Oneida Street?
That actually, we are now at 700 Oneida, Hunts Point. That happened good 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. We lost our lease in 2019, 2020. We looked for another place, pandemic.
Sure, and then you got it, and this really, I mean, this is, you're able to run, I know you have Saturday classes now. We want to announce that to everybody. There are Saturday art classes that are growing, and it gives you a regular space. I'm assuming that you're all pretty happy about what's going on.
Yeah, very happy. Also that we have the stability of a long-term lease here in this building that allows us to have really, future programming setting up. Right. 2025 is already.
Let's bring Lady Kate Fever into this. So there is a exhibit that opened up in the middle of October, and it's going to run through the middle of November, called Intersecting Visions at Bronx Art Space. You can see it there. It's curated by Christine DeFazio. Lady K Fever, just talk about you and the work that you have contributed to this particular art show.
Start with one thing. I just would like to, Andre, the other artist, Andre Trenier.
Yes, Andre Trenier, yes.
Yeah, so we have actually worked together over the past 15 years in different capacities. So it was really nice to have a show where you're bringing together his work and my work together as intersecting and then weaving. Both of us are Bronx-based artists, so it was really nice. So the work that I've created, the pieces are part of a street scale series where it's actually the size of what I would create on the street in one of my murals. So bringing this size into a gallery and people really getting to look at it about how really big and the scale is, and kind of, a lot of times we see artwork on small canvases or in a certain size. So I really play with this idea of bringing really large scale stuff
to
that
make it look like our neighborhoods. I just want to move it ahead so we can see some of the artwork. Did you
Yes.
create the artwork for this exhibit, or you just kind of took stuff that you had and then put that together for this exhibit for Intersecting Visions?
So there are some pieces that specifically that were created for this exhibit. So we'd been kind of in conversation for about a year, knowing that it was happening. So some of the works were already made, and some of the works are specifically made
Right.
for the exhibit.
So our producer Anderson, let's take a look. Show us some of the great work, and this is some of what you'll be able to see if you get over there to 700 Monida Street. Now, whose piece is this?
This is André Trenier's piece, and it is from a series of artworks that he did, I think, I assume, as a commission for the company Champion, for the sports company.
Ah, because he did the shirt. What a great image, and boy, if that's not a Bronx woman, I don't know who is. Keep it going. Let's run some more pieces now. Whose is this?
Lady K Fever. And Lady K can probably give the name of it right away while I was looking for it.
Yeah, it is. I still dream, and it's meditation in the breeze, and it's part of a series called The Mystical Travels of
And
Botanical.
how large is the painting in real life?
It's
other than
about
on our
6
little
feet by
screen.
4 feet.
3 feet by 4 feet.
No, 6 feet by 4 feet.
6 feet by 4 feet. Oh, there
Yeah.
we go. All right, keep it going. Let's look at some more. We don't want to run out of time. Look at this.
This is Lady K Fever, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is a diptych. Sometimes they're next to each other, and this time that we decided to put it in the corner, which is really lovely because it kind of ties into the title of Intersecting Pieces Together.
Do you do these as models, like you look at the flowers, or do you kind of conjure them up in your imagination?
It's a little bit of both. I've been painting flowers since about 1999, even before then. So I actually was in Hawaii when I first started painting the hibiscus. So it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit very hot realism, but realism with spray paint, and a little bit of like surrealism and kind of this fantastical idea to it. They kind of take on a life of their own.
Right, because the artist has a mind of her own. Let's keep going. I'm not shy. We want to show a Bronx artwork. This I love. This is beautiful.
This is also André Trenier, and also with two kind of also a diptych, and
it's beautiful. We don't have to try and explain for him. I mean, we can just enjoy it as it is. We don't have to stretch. I don't know how many more we got, Anderson. We have a couple more.
This is the latest André Trenier, and that's 2024. And what I personally like is the way, he's depicting himself in this position, kind of turning into the painting, and then his famous sneakers in front and this wild in the back. I really think it's great, that he's also inventing.
It says Bronx to me again because of the way he looks in there and the way he dresses, but also in our imaginations and in our minds, we see a lot more than is right in front of our faces. Let's go. I think we got like 3 more.
This is out of this Champion series too, and I learned that he drove around. He put it on a box truck and drove around Miami, I think, in order to promote it.
Wow, what a great! And how large? How large? I guess it's the side of a truck, right?
Yeah. Long length of a box truck.
Beautiful. Keep going. I think I'm counting 2 more.
Yeah, same series. 2 people, 2 models with the Champions logo.
Right. Wow, Champion was very smart to get him. And one more. And
also one of the newer ones, also André Trenier, the little girl, just again, the way he's depicting children, the seriousness and colors. It's just the shadows on her face.
It's just beautiful. Lady K, do you paint every day? Do you work every day, or is it the kind of thing that you get everything else done and then you sit down and say, okay, now I'm going to paint? or is it something you wake up in the morning and you just start doing work?
I'm a little bit, I've had a studio in my house for, I think, since the beginning of being an artist, since I was like a kid. I've always had a creative space. So I live, eat, breathe, paint every day.
And in terms of seeing your artwork like in an exhibit like this, is it educational for you? Like, do you learn something and say, oh, I painted this, but now I see it in this context, so I have a different feel about it? Or am I totally off base about that?
I think, yeah, yes and no. I mean, I definitely create work that's specifically for galleries. So I mean, you're always learning with exhibits. It's super fun to see your work, even if it's hung, a little bit different, or like with the piece that you see in the background, with Sabine right now, that piece is being hung lower. So it was really nice to see it hung like a foot or two. There's a specific height in the gallery that you hang paintings. I worked as a museum educator for many years. So it was fun to see that hung at a different level because you see things in a different way. So also every space is different. And that's what I find. It's always really magical, and it's always, I wouldn't say necessarily learning it, but it's really exciting and thrilling to see and also build on, like, now I've shown it this way, maybe I work on this. So I take away just working on new work.
I think for people who are not artists and people who don't kind of understand the process, these kinds of dialogues are very useful because they begin to understand the creativity, what it means when you show them. It's not like, oh, well, okay, I saw it in the museum or whatever it is. So anyway, we're just about out of time. So Sabine, if you would just wrap it up, tell us where and when people can come and see this beautiful work. And of course, let's get involved with Bronx Art Space. Let's use the Saturday classes for all of us who want to do more.
Yeah, Bronx Art Space with this exhibition will be open, or let's say will close November 16. But until then, you can come to Bronx Art Space Thursday, Friday, 2 to 6, Saturday, 12 to 5 p.m. and see the art in person.
It's just wonderful. Free. And everything is free. Listen, it's just wonderful. This to me is what makes the Bronx unlike anywhere else. We just have great artists, and the expression just says who we are. You just had to look at the pieces here and know exactly who we are. Lady K Fever, keep on it. Thank you so much. And we really appreciate who you are and what you do in the borough of the Bronx and how you view who we are. We appreciate that. And Sabine Schumacher, keep it going. Let's go. Bronx Art Space. Everybody get out there and see it and enjoy it. And we appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Folks, that'll do it for the Bronx Buzz. I got to run. We'll see you next time. If the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, we'll be back. We say thank you to Ben for joining us as well in the first segment. Good night.